we're going to be installing the two prop washes on each side of the shaft log. I'm using 3/8 inch plate steel, just like I have the sides of the rest of the keel. And those pieces right there weigh 395 pounds. Because the keel has an overhang, I had to weld a bracket on that I could clamp onto and be able to swing the prop wash up under the overhangs of these keels. I checked the fit and proceeded to mark where I needed to rough trim it with the plasma cutter so that I could swing it up underneath that keel. Then using my plasma cutter, I cut the 3/8 inch plate. That's about the limit of my plasma cutter, so it cuts fairly rough. Then grind the roughness of the plasma cuts. Then test fit this plate into place. It's like I said, a 295-pound plate steel, so it's a little bit of a bear to wrestle it into place and get it aligned up so that I can check the fit again. Once it's placed, I make some finer marks to make more cuts. Then plasma cut it closer to shape. So, we're testing tank welds today. One of the things we're using is this stuff. This is a penetrant. It's kind of a purpley colored stuff, thin, oily. And then a developer. And you spray the penetrant on one side of the weld you want to test, and the developer on the other. So the developer's white, and you can see right there, we've got a leak. So Jimmy's over today, and he's going to go over all the tank welds and find all the leaks, grind them, drill them, do whatever, and re-weld them up. So that's what Jimmy's doing today.
This is Mr. Pig, aka dinner, sausage, and bacon.
Next came marking out for the shaft log to cut those areas out, and the cuts for those. It didn't go well. So trying to install the prop wash, which is the plate on the keel that is basically the dead wood where it wraps and comes to where the prop is. I've got it cut so that it fits in between the aft portion and the keel plate down there. But I got to cut it now to fit the shaft log. And the shaft log has got a funny curve. It's like a really long parabolic curve. And I tried eyeballing it and doing some cuts last night, and it didn't go well. I'm not happy with it. So this morning, I decided to try another way. And being I have this whole thing in CAD, the shaft log's diameter is known, it's in CAD. The prop wash angle where starting point and ending point is known. I could then cut a hole in CAD in 3D into the prop wash. Then, using that, I printed out this long template. And my attempt today is to place that onto the prop wash, hold it in place, mark the prop wash, and cut it now that I've got this template. If I mess this up, then that plate, which is 250 pounds of steel, is a waste. I've got one more for the other side, but I'll have to bring in more 3/8 inch plate to cut this one. or to replace it, and that's just an expense I don't want to go through. So I'm really hoping that I don't mess this up. The first thing I had to do was trim my bracket because it was going to be in the way of my template. Then I put the template on and traced around it so that I could cut it out properly. Then cut out the shape that I did with my template and get the sucker out. Somewhat concerned about lifting that plate with such a small area in front of the oblong cut. So I welded on a spacer or a brace between the two to hold it together so it wouldn't. Then test fitted the prop shaft.
Well, I ended up with a bit more gap than I wanted. I guess that's why they make filler rod. I'll get some, I don't know, 1/4 inch round bar and weld that in there to fill the gap. Probably won't need 1/4 inch, but I'll weld in 1/4 inch and then grind it to what I need. One thing is I never intended this to be a fancy boat, and I guess that's a good thing under the circumstances. George Bueller, the late George Bueller, had said something that really kind of stuck with me, and he says you can build a showpiece, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically what he said was you can build a showpiece and spend years doing it. Or you can build a boat and get out on the water. And that's kind of where I'm at. If people don't come aboard my boat later in the years and look at every detail and go, ooh, ah, I'm all right with that. Because at least I'll be out in the water. Whereas somebody who's making everything absolutely perfect and beautiful will be years on land while I'm out in the water. That was the decision I made. I like the way George put it. As such, sometimes I've got gaps to fill. Yeah. So that's one. One down, one to go. I tacked the forward section of that plate in. Just so it don't fall down and kill anybody. But not the aft section. When I get the aft piece put on, I'll make sure these two meet up in the middle and are dead centered in the keel. And when I'm sure of that, then I'll pack everything else together. And then get Sarah out here to finish welding.
And do it all over again for the other side. Mark it out, cut it, test fit it, make sure it's going to work. Well, I got the gap filled. I've got 90% of the welding done on this side. Upside down welding just blows. So I got some grinding to do and probably some touch-ups on the upside down welding. And vertical up, I'm not too good at that either. I know I got good penetration, but I got lots of dripping that's got to be ground off. But I know that I got good penetration because I kept blowing through. So that's good. So yeah, I'm gonna have to sandblast and primer. I'll take the port side plate back off, grind it, prepare it for welding. I'll sandblast and primer the inside of this Propwash area. Sandblast and primer the other plate, the port side plate. Probably throw some relatively inexpensive but decent paint on it. And and then put it up there and weld. I'm going to ruin the primer and paint near the weld, but there's no getting around that. There's no other way of getting to those areas once I've welded it. So I'll primer and paint what I can, weld it in there. Also, I'm going to run some PEX plumbing down to the bottom of this. That way, if anything gets in there, I can pump it out. I don't think there will be, but maybe one day I'll use it for used oil or fresh oil or scotch. Scotch is a good idea. Whole tank of scotch. I may need it by the time it's over there. So yesterday, I doused the inside of where the prop wash is going to be, and both sides of the inside with muriatic acid to get the mill scale off. That took a process, or that took some time. The muriatic acid blows. It sucks. I ended up just about suiting up in rubber and respirators and everything else. Anyways, about 3 gallons later of muriatic acid, I finally got all the mill scale off the inside of what will be the prop wash. This morning I got to disc sand it down. I got to put one more fitting onto the bottom of the prop wash, just in case any water gets in there. I got a pipe, a nipple pipe that gets all the way down in there and can suck out any water or contaminants that may get in there over the life of the boat. And I may end up using it for a tank of some sort, to hold used oil or new oil or something. Don't know yet. So I got the primer paint, 2-part epoxy primer paint, $100 a gallon. But what do you do? Anyways, project for today is to get the fittings put in, get the inside of the prop wash painted, and get it sealed up. Don't know if I'll get to the sealed up part yet today, but I'm going to give it a try. So these are the pipes I was talking about. This one's probably going to just get abandoned because I don't actually need two. I don't need 2 of them going down into here, but I do need at least one. So my intention is because the shaft log is in the way, I can't go straight up to get up out of this area. So I'll put a 90 on here, which I just realized I got the wrong size 90. I'll have to go to Home Depot and get another one. Anyways, I'll put this nipple on there. I'll cut a hole in there, run this nipple into the inside of the boat, and from there I should be able to, I can get to it or from below this over there. Then I have a way of draining this whole area.
So I cut the hole in the frame spacer, threaded up the pipe, and welded it all together. I then ground away all the acid residue so that I could have pure white, clean metal for proper painting. Disc sander I was using didn't get everywhere, but I was able to, with hand sanding and everything else, get it to proper white.
Mixing 2-part epoxy. I used a PPG Amerilock 2 or Amerilock 400 paint primer all in one to paint the inside of these cavities. It seems to be a good paint that they use on buildings and bridges, boats, a little bit of everywhere. I made sure I got good coverage, particularly in the weld joints and everywhere else. I then started laying out the forward ladder to get from the pilot house to the forward section while the paint dried. This is how I laid it out. And anyways, I stepped through it. I'm not a woodworker. I did the best I can. I plan on having somebody who knows wood a bit better than I do for the final interior joining.
But in the meantime, I managed to get get this ladder set up so that I could transverse from the forward section to the pilot house. I did rabbet out the slots for each ladder step, glue and screw it all together so it'd be solid. It could last me for a while, since it's going to be a while before I actually get to the interior joinery. Then I set the steps in place, marked around where they actually touched the bulkhead at station 24, slid them off to the side, and drilled holes into the bulkhead plate that I can easily weld up later once I get to the point of finish welding all of this hull. But in the meantime, it'll hold the ladder in place for a long period of time.
Sometimes when it's raining, you've been at it for weeks on end, every weekend, building a boat. Sometimes it's just a good idea to stop, listen to the rain, and remember you're building a boat. It may not be the prettiest boat. It won't be the largest boat. But it's going to take me around the world. And I built it myself. Enough screwing around, back to work.
Once the two-part epoxy set up, Caleb had showed up to give me a hand. We blew out the entire area with compressed air to make sure there was no contaminants left in there, no dust or particles. Then proceeded to put in the Propwash for the final time, get it all set, positioned, and then clamp it into place so that we can tack weld it. Again, that's almost a 300-pound plate, and so I'm pretty nervous of it being loose until I got a couple of clamps on it.
The mill scale off.
Once we got it properly clamped, I felt fairly sure it wasn't going to go anywhere. It's basically sitting on the keel plate on the bottom. So then we went around and tack welded it into place. Caleb did some tack welding for me. Good practice for him. I was surprised how well the Amerilock welded. It didn't seem to contaminate the weld.